Here is Mandrew, that kind of position. Oh, what a goal! What a goal from Danny Mandrew! The shot comes in! Oh, what a screamer!
This is the real heart of soccer, quite frankly.
Oh my God, what a finish. Well, Jordan Flores met that on the meat.
Hello there, you're very welcome to episode 35 of LOI Arena, brought to you by Pundit Arena. It's myself, Con Murphy, and Conan Byrne as ever. Our last podcast of the season, Conan. This is where I should have a machine which plays in one of those kind of sound effects. But what a season it's been. And as we chat here, it's cup final night. St. Pat's have won the cup again. And I mean, a day of highs, lows, great excitement, great crowd, great goals. Just a very special day, especially for St. Pat's, and I'm sure for you.
Yes, absolutely, Con. Obviously, I've tried to kind of contain my emotions and act all professional, but which I'm finding pretty difficult, if I'm being totally honest. But you know what, Con? When I was at the game today, looking around at like what you talked about over the last number of weeks as well, the amount of young people at the game, Bows and both Bows and Pat supporters, neutral supporters, there were so many of those as well. My daughters, they're involved in the local team down here, and there was messages getting into the WhatsApp group from dozens of them going into the game this evening. They were at the game on Thursday as well for the women's national team, and it's just great to see young people experiencing that today at the Aviva Stadium. I was so proud. And I suppose like you're kind of like a lot of people are talking. I actually heard a lot of people talk about a lot of bandwagon joining the bandwagon today. Yeah. I don't care. I think it's great.
Come on board.
Once they experience what that atmosphere today, seeing the quality that was on the pitch, albeit I thought it wasn't great in the first half. Quality wise, it was very tentative from both sides. That's what I took out of it. Like I remember going to like trying to promote this league, like yourself, Con, and we've been doing it for years. And even as a player, trying to promote it to your friends and your family and to my school and to everywhere about the fact that this is just the greatest league in the world. And like even traveling up with extratime.ie, not getting a cent for it, going up the Bally Buffet to cover a relegation playoff because I love the league. And then when you see that today, and you're like, and it's not just me, it's like journalists as well that have been promoting it, broadcasters, fans, supporters, players, managers. It's one collective effort and kind of seeing that crowd today and the record attendance at the Aviva Stadium for an FAI Cup final at the Aviva. It was just great to see. It really, really was. And I know I'm gone off track here. I'm probably being a bit sentimental, but it's just brilliant. It's just
I love it when you get sentimental. Everybody loves a sentimental Conan. And actually, you know, the point you make about the crowd, okay, I hold my hands up because I think a few weeks back when you said you expected a record crowd for a cup final in the Aviva, I thought that was going to be a push, and you were right, I was wrong. And when you think back to,
as usual,
when Bows last won the cup, 2008 in the RDS, 10,228 won. 10,281 was the crowd at the RDS that day. When you won the Cup of Pats in 2014, and I was there, the fantastic atmosphere, 17,000. More than double. My maths is terrible, but more than double that today. And
felt every bit of it too.
That says something, says something, no matter what. I know later on we'll talk about the incident in Irish Town, which does cast a little bit of a shadow on the day in some respects. But on the positive side, I mean, the size of that crowd, the colour, the flares, the noise throughout the game, fantastic. And again, this comes back to what I've said over the last few weeks as well. Those kids that you're talking about who went along mightn't get the finer points of the game, or mightn't notice that, Ross Tierney is making brilliant runs off the ball or whatever it might be. But they soak up that occasion, they soak up the atmosphere, and they want to come back for more. And that's, that's for me, that's brilliant. And both sets of supporters contributed to that today.
Absolutely. And the fact that it went to penalties as well. Like, who doesn't love penalties, especially when you're going to probably some people first FAI Cup final, and you're getting to experience a penalty shootout. My daughters were with me, like they couldn't get over the atmosphere of the day. And obviously they're going home happy. But I think the day, like, even though it was a 0-0 after 90 minutes, I think it was still a very edge of your seat type of game, because there was some excellent individual displays on show. And then Chris Forrester took over with his magnificent goal. That
would grace any cup final anywhere.
Yeah, it was absolutely top class. And Bows didn't lie down, Con. And perhaps they really should have won the game. If I'm being totally honest, I think they probably should have won the game in normal time. I think Pats were out on their feet. There's so many players from both sides that were going down with cramp, particularly Pats players, and particularly the defenders. And I think that they were there for the taking if they really wanted it, and if they really just grabbed it by the scruff of the neck. I really do think Bohemians could have won that cup today.
Maybe a little unfortunate that Georgie Kelly had to go off with that calf injury, which, if he had stayed on, who knows? I mean, it's. He
didn't have a great game, Con.
No, he didn't. But he's capable of He's had games like that where he's done nothing and then scored 2 goals in space of 5 minutes or whatever. He's capable of doing that.
I thought Promise looked very dangerous. Promise on my chair. I thought he was excellent when he came on. He was big, he was strong, he held the ball
quick as well, which is a slightly different threat.
He was quick, and he was causing the Pats backline some problems with his layoffs. And look, if Ross Tierney had scored that, you actually said that they'd win 2-1 and Ross Tierney would score the winner.
I nearly was Mystic Murphy.
Yeah, he really should have. It was I know everyone's saying it was a great good save, straight at him, but it was still a great reaction save. But anywhere else it would have been a goal. Obviously, again, Rory Feely could have been the hero with his header that was taken off the line, and I was actually in line with it, so it did not cross the line. So it was a great clearance by Hickman. And do you know, I was thinking the 2 goal scorers today, 3 players were involved in the 2014 squad for Pats that were playing today, and 2 of them scored. I could be wrong, but Feely and Forrester. Bermo was the other. Feely wasn't a part of the match day squad, all right, but he was part of he was in the same Pats overall. I remember him being in the suit anyway, so he was there. So it's and when I went to penalties, Con, I had no doubt in my mind that Pats were going to win it. They have a great record recently in cup competition, in penalty shootouts, should I say. They lost in the League Cup to Dundalk back in 2017. And you have to go back a long time before that. They won the League Cup on penalties in Galway as well, having won the quarterfinal, semi-final and final on penalties. And then they bet Cork already this season in a penalty shootout in the 3rd round of the FAI Cup. So they've had experience this season. Now, it is still a lottery, but I was very, very confident going into that penalty shootout that they'd come out on top. And I just felt so bad. My man of the match, by the way, was Tyrique Wilson. I thought he was absolutely superb at left full. He gave Dara Burns, he didn't give him a kick of the ball the whole game. Dara actually had to switch wings to get involved because he couldn't get a look in. He never got past him once. And I thought he was absolutely excellent. I was devastated for him to miss. And then obviously Wardy, after his nightmare miss in Europe earlier on in the season, in the last minute in Pauk to put it into extra time, to miss the final penalty as well, to allow Robbie Benson to slot it in. Felt heartbreaking for him, and I'm hearing it's his last game for the club too. So very sad from a Bows perspective.
And frustrating for them as well, given that Yaros didn't save either penalty. They just missed the target with them, and after Forrester had missed, I thought this is it for Bowes, you know.
Yeah, that's it. You can't miss it. You can't miss the target, Conan, in a penalty shootout. It's literally unforgivable. Because at the same, like, you're just told when you're there, like if you stand on the penalty spot and you look at the goal, it's very hard to miss it. Like, you know, it is very hard to miss it. I know there's a keeper standing in your way and you're trying to get it into the corners or up high or whatever, but you'd never miss the target in the penalty shootout. Never. Yeah. And it's just unfortunate they did.
Yeah, it's a horrible way for any team to lose a cup final. One thing that strikes me, and you played on that pitch in 2014, and you mentioned it yourself, that a lot of the Pats players seemed to be struggling in the latter part of the match. And actually there were a fair few Bowes players that were going down as well, with cramp and stuff like that. From a player's perspective, is it a much, much bigger pitch? And is it the tension of the occasion that can also lead to cramp? Or can you explain why that happens in a cup final so often?
It's not the pitch. I wouldn't blame the pitch on it. The players are very, very tense. And I remember the 2014 cup final very, very well. We were 1-0 up and there was a lot of players in a similar position going down with cramp. Where they'd never do that in a league game at any of the League of Ireland grounds. Yeah. So a lot of people might suggest that it is because of the Aviva Stadium, but it's not. The pitch the pitch isn't great, believe it or not, from when you're looking at it. You slip on it. It's a very uneven surface when you're standing on it. You probably saw a lot of people slipping. Yeah. It's not the fact that they had wrong boots. It's just the way that the surface of the pitch. But I, honest to God, now I'm no scientist or anything like sports scientist or anything like that. But I think it has to be down to nerves and tension and tense muscles and things like that on the day, the adrenaline. Because when you don't, and it's not like, I wouldn't say it's a long season because they would have done it in the last couple of weeks of the season. These cramps would have come up, and it only seems to happen at this game because it happens regularly in cup finals. Yeah. So that would be the only thing that I could put it down to. But I definitely, it does happen
in the 90s. Like you'd almost expect it in extra time and the second half of extra time, especially. But this was happening during the game, like during the 90s.
Yeah, it was
a lot.
Yeah, I think the first person went down after 65 minutes. And that's not normal. Like these lads are very, very fit athletes. So I wouldn't put it down to lack of fitness or anything like that. These lads' muscles would be in tip-top shape. And yes, I can only point to adrenaline, nerves and tension and that type of thing.
The other thing I was going to ask you was in terms of the influence of the manager on the day of the cup final. Obviously, Keith Long was suspended, and from an hour before kickoff, he had to go up into the stands, so he had no bearing on what was happening. How much influence in a cup final like that does a manager have? And do you think that made any kind of a difference at all?
I don't think it would have made much difference, Con. Just remember back when you're on that pitch, you don't hear anything that's coming from the sideline. And any direction that is going to be given to you, it's going to be relayed from the manager to the touchline to the players. So I don't think it's a major bearing on it. Perhaps maybe at halftime when he's not allowed into the changing room, or his pre-match team talk, just before they go onto the pitch, that could have an impact, absolutely. But in terms of information put out onto the pitch, I don't think that would be a major thing. And the fact that his presence isn't there, when you're playing a match, you don't think about the manager on the side of the pitch. You don't think about the supporters. You don't think about your family. You don't really think about anything. You think about you're too much focused on the game itself, Con, to think about outside noise. So absolutely, I'd say that it wouldn't have had a major bearing at all on the result.
And as one of the sort of wise men of Irish football now, if you're advising the FAI in terms of that, I mean, we saw Stephen Bradley was suspended the previous year for the cup final. In some cases, it might be the only time a manager ever gets to a cup final. Is there space, do you think, for some kind of leniency or some kind of a holdover for the suspension to the following season so that a manager can be part of the occasion?
Yeah.
Especially, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you bear in mind this suspension comes from him having a head-to-head with Stephen Bradley on the sideline, where they had a shouting match basically at each other over a minor incident, really. No punches were thrown, or no pushing or shoving, or it was a head-to-head, and they did, get involved with each other. But like, to miss a cup final because of that, I just think it seems to be overly harsh.
Oh, it is. And as I said, I'm a bit sitting on the fence on it because I'm a stickler for rules. And at the same time, when rules are broken, sanctions are there and that are put in place to discipline you for those
indiscretions.
Yeah, indiscretions. Thank you. And I know a couple of years ago, players were given leeway to, if they were given a red card before, or no, it was a yellow card. Their build-up of yellow cards were missed, were brought on to next season. I would have been the case of, look, you got yellow cards for a reason. You should know when or when not to. Like, people are there, Con, at clubs telling you when and when not to get booked. Trust me, they're there. I've been told throughout my whole, well, not me, because I've hardly ever been booked, but they've been told, right, now's the time to get booked because you're going to miss this game. Right. Don't get booked in this game because you're going to miss this game. So this happens, I'm guessing, at every single club now. It's come on a little bit in terms of stats. And
it's very easy. I mean, all you have to do is pull a guy's jersey and you're pretty much guaranteed a yellow card. So you can engineer a situation like that, all right.
Yeah, it happened in the Champions League during the week with James Milner when he came off the bench with a couple of minutes to go. Yellow card straight away, and he misses the last game, so he's free for the elite, for the next phase of the competition.
I think Sergio Ramos did that a couple of years ago for Real Madrid, and they actually, UEFA, I think, overrode the suspension and kind of said, we can see that you did that deliberately, so we're going to give you a double suspension or something. I forget the exact circumstances, but it was a glaringly obvious, 89th minute, just to please give me a yellow card sort of fell.
Yeah. Like, so I'm at the situation where manager would have told players, let's say 3 weeks away from the cup final, if you get booked in this game, you're missing the cup final. So you have to be careful. And if they don't do it, well, they were warned, they were told. So I'm kind of a case of like, we're meant to be a professional league, an elite league. Don't be treating it like, once off cup final, you're going to miss the big day. Are we professional or are we not? Are we? Because that's more, I would have felt a more amateurish approach if we're going to do it that way. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel absolutely terrible for Keith Long not being in that dressing room today. But surely he would he have known that
heat of the moment, Conan, Dublin derby, tension is high and passion is high, and two managers have a go. We've seen Klopp and managers in England lashing off at each other on the sideline, and they get a yellow card maybe. Okay, once in a blue moon they're sent off as well. Not as often, I think, as over here, although I think, again, the stats aren't as bad here as some people were saying earlier on in the season. But I just felt sorry for Keith Long today. I did. No,
I did too, Con. Absolutely did. Absolutely. And you're talking about the heat of the moment, but then, like, we've been talking to, and I've been getting bombarded. Like, I've been getting messages from all sorts of people thinking that I'm against referees completely, when that couldn't be further from the truth. But like, they have a job to do, and if they see an incident where it's needs to be reported and it needs to be dealt with, well, then they have to deal with it. And and this is what I mean. And I'm not being bad. I'm not saying, Keith Long deserved this. I'm just saying that there has to be a consequence for your actions. And if that misses a cup final, if it misses a League Cup game, if it misses a Leinster Senior Cup game, well, then it doesn't matter what game you're missing, because we have to treat this league as professional as we can, and that's all aspects to it. And this is part of it, in my opinion. It might be extremely harsh, Con, but I'd say the same if it was a player. I think that rule about players not missing cup, I think that needs to be scrapped. Like, I think Richie Ryan, I think I can remember right, he missed a cup final, and it was sparked out of that from him missing a game for Sligo in a cup final. And I think that rule has to be changed again. Right. It can't, like, we need to be more professional.
You're a hard man.
Well, you can imagine maybe if I was in Keith Long's shoes, I might have a different opinion on it, you know. But I just think that why change the rules just because it doesn't happen in any other league? You know, why should it happen?
Doesn't
for
know.
us?
See, I don't know. I probably should, but
Well,
yeah,
I don't. I'm not 100% on that. But
yeah, but again, I think it does lead to a situation maybe coming up to a cup final where players will engineer a yellow card to make sure that they're not in danger of missing the cup final 3-4 weeks down the road or whatever it might be. Speaking of missing out, Bows now miss out on Europe, and that's, you know, a double whammy for them, really.
It's very disappointing for them. No, that's not like, I don't want to beat around the bush here. I think a lot of people have said that Bows have kind of, the narrative has been that Bows have had a fantastic season, and they have had part of their season has been great. They started off really, really poorly in the opening 8-9 games, and Georgie Kelly wasn't firing on all cylinders. Can you imagine if he did? If he started well, how many goals he would have got? But their aim surely was to get Europe again this season. And it's just so unfortunate because, like, even though obviously I was up for Pats today, I felt so sorry for both because the amount of work that they do off the pitch, their fans deserve it, if I'm being totally honest. For days and European days and celebrations like they did this year, they've brought the league up tenfold. The club itself, and you can't take anything away from that. Look at their membership figures for this year. Look at already for next year. It's phenomenal, and for that reason, I would love to have seen them get Europe, but it wasn't to be, and it's a poor season for them. There's no two ways about it. They didn't get Europe. They didn't win the FAI Cup, and I think it's a poor season. Their squad is probably going to be obliterated again. You know, and that's just I've talked about this before. I've got some people onto me about how kind of putting in the dagger into Bows. I actually don't think I am. I think I'm being honest and realistic about the situation. Is that they're going to lose players, and that's the disappointing thing now for Keith Long, to pick himself up from this heartbreaking defeat of a cup final and heartbreak of not getting Europe, to try and entice players to a club that aren't in Europe next season. That's going to be difficult. The players that are there, are they going to want to stay? The fact that they don't have Europe, like, a lot of their players are wanted, Ben, and wanted by teams that are,
football is a big one for them,
and they're wanted by teams that are in Europe, and that's as footballers, it's a short career. You might want to make that move, and I can see some of them doing that, and that's Keith Long and Trevor going to do that rebuilding job all over again, which they are absolutely brilliant at. But as I said a couple of weeks ago, do they have the pain in their backside with? You know, that's, you know.
Yeah,
but
it's 7 seasons and you know, one Leinster Senior Cup to show for 7 seasons, and that's not a criticism of them in any manner or means. But
they've done
players want to win trophies.
Job. Yeah, they've done a remarkable job, and there's no two ways about it. They're going to be really disappointed about today, because I know 100% fact, and the players should know this, that the game was there for the taking. If they had just went for it a little bit more.
And are you saying that their actual approach to the game was too conservative?
No. I was thinking about maybe towards the end of the game when Pats were out on their feet.
Yeah.
Towards in their back line, I thought the decision making up front wasn't great either. Stephen Mallon came on. He looked very, very sharp, but again, decision making, maybe it was lack of match practice, because there was a couple of times now where he could have played the ball to a player in a better position. They did have chances to win the game as well. But down the sides, they had the beatings of Sam Bone and Ian Birmingham, who were really struggling with injuries. Well, cramp probably more so than anything else. And just the ball wasn't put out there quick enough, and it was kind of just very hesitant. I would have felt, and that's just, excuse me, that would have been my take on it.
Obviously, Bo's disappointment is the flip side of that coin is for Derry City, you know, to get into Europe. I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, Derry wouldn't have really had much expectation of European football next season. And so apart from St. Pat's, that's a dream result for the Candy Stripes as well.
Oh, you can just imagine how Rory Higgins, Raf Quintero, and how everybody's feeling up there, Con. Because when they went in, you would never dream of them getting Europe next season.
Yeah, Raf is leaving, by the way, I think.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But the fact that Patrick McElhenney, still a job done, Con. I know you're saying Raf's leaving, but it's still his. You can't forget the job that he has done to get them there.
Oh yeah.
As Rory's assistant. I was going to say he was going in to replace him, but I don't know. It's
you're terrible teased, you know that you really are, between Keith Ward and not telling us where he's going, and now you can't do this to us all the time.
That's not my place, Con. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be that player, that person that's like, oh, did you hear this fella Conan thrown off more?
Scoop,
more in from
we call you Scoop Burn from now on.
Yeah, well, I don't like being the one to. I'm not.
Until it's announced. I know what you're saying. Yeah,
it's not fair. It's not fair on anybody. But I think with Will Patchen going in, Patrick McElhenney going in, Michael Duffy going in, the player Brian Maher going in, great sign, by the way.
Great sign.
It's going to be really, really interesting. You know, I laughed at you last week, or about
2 months
ago now, Con. Yeah, when you said about Derry getting title contenders next year. But judging with the way the signings they've made, the players that will want to go to them now, it'll be very interesting to see how they get on next year. And the fact, as I said, the fact that they've got Europe is huge.
Yeah, it was interesting as well. When you beat them in the cup in 2014, Duffy and McElhenney obviously were playing for Derry, so it's you know, they're back home again now, kind of thing, you know, and back on comfortable territory for them. So I definitely think they're going to be ones to watch. So in summation of the day, before we leave the cup final,
I haven't given any. Yeah, I haven't given any praise whatsoever here to St. Pat's.
Yeah, the job Stephen O'Donnell and Alan Matthews have done in building this team to finish second in the league, win an FAI Cup at the start of the season. If you had offered them that, they would have bitten both your hands off.
Oh, they would never have thought about it, not thought in a million years. I know Stephen O'Donnell probably would have, given the ambition that he has. But it's just, I don't know, I think it's the signings that he's made has been really, really key. He's brought a togetherness, an identity to Pats again, which was lost over the last number of years. And look at the crowd that came out today from Inchicore and beyond. It's not, as you said, 2014, there was only 17,000, 18,000 people at the Aviva Stadium. So 7 years later, my maths wasn't great there, that they're part of even like the amount of people that have come on to see them from then. I'm mixing my words here because I'm very tired and very happy with with what's going on. But I'm just absolutely over the moon for the club and
I suppose the trick now is to get those people coming to league matches week in, week out.
That's
not all of them. Obviously, they're not all going to come, but you know, even if you get a residual, be great.
Of course, it is. That would be the pinnacle, because that's what you want. You want a big crowd at your home games. And look, Inchicore, when we won the league, like there was a lot of people down there when we won it, and then the next week lifting the trophy, there was, I'd say it was only half, 3/4 full. So you need to keep them there. And I know the people involved at the club, the likes of David Morrissey, is doing fantastic work in the community. It's really is really brilliant work. The academies are doing, the academy is doing really, really well. And the fans are, but it's happening everywhere. I keep saying it. There is fans going back to grounds, and it's all about keeping there. And it's all about the entertainment value, not just what goes out on the football pitch. It's what goes on for the whole, your value for money in terms of halftime entertainment, what happens beforehand, post-match entertainment. And yeah, I know with COVID, it's that can be tricky, but you need to try and keep the fans at the ground.
I mentioned earlier on, the one dark cloud on the day today really was that incident at Irish Town before the game when I'm not going to call them fans because they're not. They're assholes got involved outside a pub there. I'm not going to say who's the baddie and who's the goodie in all of this, but everybody who was involved in that, who got stuck in, need to cop themselves on and need to be identified. If truth,
I think that's they do need to be identified by the clubs. I'll be honest with you, I have them. The videos have been sent to me, Con, and I haven't watched them yet. If I'm being totally honest, I haven't watched them. But whoever they are, I've heard about it, and they need to be identified by the clubs involved and banned. As simple as that.
There's a good chance that those gobshites don't even go to the matches. This was just, there were hangers on. I don't know. But if they do, and they're identified, they should be chucked out forever, because you have 37,000 people, great day, great atmosphere, lots of kids, as you said, and something like that now is going to end up in the papers tomorrow. There's videos all over Twitter. You have some GAA journalists slagging off of
course,
the FAI Cup and organized violence and all this kind of nonsense. And it just, when I saw the video, my heart sank, because I just thought, this is the last thing we need on a day like this now. Yeah,
it leaves a sour taste, all right. And even when, I'll be honest, even when I was walking back to the car, there was a little bus stop just about 20 yards from me, as well, between the two sets of fans. Obviously, I had my daughters with me, and it's not an ideal situation at all. And look, there was drink involved. It's very obvious that it was, because where I was in the stadium, it was the same people that were sitting very close to me that were involved in that incident that was 20 yards away from me. So it's just, I don't know, it's very hard to put into words the frustration and anger that you have for this type of carry on that goes on, because it happens too frequently, Con. The other thing as well, there was like, we talked about, we gave out about Shamrock Rovers fans down in Waterford a couple of weeks ago with the fireworks. There was a firework let off, fired at Yaros in the second half of that game as well. That was very, very close to him too. And that probably wasn't picked up, but I saw it, and
could have been.
Yeah. I'm not blaming them, but I'm not saying who it was in terms of Bows or Pats fans, but it was very close to him, and he made he didn't make a reaction to it at all. But it could have easily, you don't know what, in that situation, how far that firework is going to go. Is it going to go over his head? Is it going to come short? And the other thing is, there's photographers just underneath the hoardings as well, that if it does go short, you're putting them at risk too, Con. It's we love the firework, we love the flares and the pyro and all that type of stuff. That, I think if you see it all across Europe, it's great to see, especially on the TV. But when it puts people in danger, there has to be a line, and you need to, as an individual, you should know that yourself. You shouldn't be throwing fireworks out onto a football pitch. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, no, it was unfortunate, and the Pats fans who were in that pub and having a nice day with their families, ending up having bottles thrown at them and fireworks and stuff. It looked terrible. I was sickened by it, and it's a bunch of they're really young, moronic, testosterone fueled morons.
They're not associated with the clubs, though, Con. I know you're saying, they're I know you're not saying this, but they might have a scarf, they might have a hat, they might have a jersey, but they're not fans. They're not representative of the club that we both know, that we both I'm not going to say love, but
they do so much damage. And it's not just the damage to Bows or whatever, it's damage to the rep of the league overall.
But and I don't like to be kind of focusing in on Bows either, because I'm sure the Pats fans were throwing stuff out onto the pitch as well, Con. It's just that I was a bit further away from that, that I couldn't see, and it sounds as if I'm defending Pats. I'm not, but at the same time, we just need to identify these people that are causing this unrest, and just ban them. And it's very difficult to do that at cup finals and different things like that. They might already have been banned from Dalymount Park. They might have already been banned from Richmond Park. And this is the opportunity for them to get out and see a game. I'll be honest with you. In 2014, there was a group of Pats fans that were banned from Richmond Park that went to the cup final and caused a bit of problems at the Aviva Stadium too. So look, it happens, and it's disappointing and it's difficult to patrol.
Yeah, it was a real disappointment. But other than that, and that was one incident. I know you said you saw a bit of a to do as well, but in general, I think the day was a very successful one in terms of the numbers who attended, the excitement, the colour, and hopefully that's what people will, I suppose, remember when they think back on this cup final. And now, that's the target for next year's cup final. Can we beat 37,129 or whatever it was?
I think it helps that there are two Dublin teams. I do think it helps. But having said that, we still should strive to hit that every year. And I was, as I said, the kind of the person in me was kind of disappointed that it didn't hit 40. I was hoping that it would hit 40. But to beat the record anyway is fantastic, and it was a great day. I know Bohs fans would feel a bit disappointed and very down over the outcome of the result, but they're a part of history as well, and it's not the history that they want to remember, but at the same time, it was a great occasion. They brought great numbers to the game, great noise, great atmosphere, and I am really disappointed that how the outcome of their season, because with all the work that they do, I think they deserve more.
Yeah. Just one last thing. I think Pats should really try and build on this now in terms of hammering home season ticket sales for next season early. Like, I know already Shamrock Rovers launched their season ticket few days ago, and they had over 1,000 after like 3 days or something. So it's, push it now and try and get some of those people who are on that train involved for next year.
Well, it's mad. Like, I was just Bohs have done it as well in terms of their membership, and you're going to be, if you don't have a membership or a season ticket at Bohs next year, forget about going to a game. But it looks of things,
it looks like there'll be virtually no general sale tickets.
No general sale tickets.
I mean, in a way, it's not fantastic. It's a pity that they just don't have a bigger ground at this point. But I think we're going to be waiting for a while until the work's done. But it's great to see. Big crowds mightn't be a problem for UCD next season, although it'd be lovely to think that they might get some big crowds. And fair play to them. Beating Waterford, coming from behind to win 2-1 in the playoff during the week. And my only disappointment again is that now we've no team from Munster in the Premier Division. When somebody said to me that Shamrock Rovers are the most southerly club now in the Premier Division, it's not great.
Not great, no. But take nothing away from UCD, Conan. They fully deserve to be in the Premier Division next season. They're there on merit. I'm not having this argument about them not having a fan base. Obviously they don't, but at the same time, they should not be in a position where people are talking about them not being a Premier Division club because of the people, their crowd numbers. They bring a lot to the league. Have a look at the players over the last 15 years that have played for UCD that have gone on to win league titles, FAI Cups, international honours. They're a conveyor belt of talent, and we see that every season. Yeah, and this season is no different. They've been absolutely superb for such an inexperienced side. Players, a kind of change in kind of a change of plan, in the sense of that you can only play for UCD if you're a member, if you're in role there, and once you're finished your degree or masters or whatever it is, you have to leave, and it's going to be very difficult for them, and that's why I said anybody who finishes below UCD next year would be relegated.
I saw you tweeting that, yeah,
and I got a lot of stick for it, got an awful lot of stick for it. and maybe people are saying rightly so, because I haven't given them a chance. But I think with the resources that they have, the inexperience, as I've talked about, they're probably going to lose a lot of their players in June, when the likes of Colin Whelan and Liam Kerrigan will be snatched up, because they have to go. It's not a case of they can stay. They actually can't.
I mean, can
stay.
they not complete the season at least? No,
I don't think so. No, I might be wrong, but I don't think so. I think there was a similar thing a couple of when they were last in the Premier Division, or not even in the Premier Division. In June time they lose a couple of players.
Yeah, I remember Colin O'Neill talking to us about this, and that like literally his squad was decimated after the exams were finished and the players headed off.
And it's all about getting players in. And Sam Todd came in from Finn Harps, Liam Kerrigan, Jack Keeney, they all came in a couple of years ago at the same time, which was great for them, because they had first team games at Finn Harps and Sligo respectively. And look, it's just going to be very, very difficult for them. Like, there was a brilliant result against Waterford. I know Waterford were in an absolute mess. It was very, very difficult for them to turn that around, considering what went on during the week. Ian Hendon coming in, and surprised with the shape of the team, if I'm being totally honest. When it didn't give UCD any respect, and UCD fully deserved their win, and relatively comfortably too. So, and I think the job that Andy Myler has done can't go unnoticed either. Not a lot of people are mentioning Andy Myler, and he's come in and he's done a remarkable job. His father passed away during the week as well, just before the game, which was obviously must have been very painful experience for him. And to do it, to go out and put in such a professional performance on the pitch, his manner of interview, the way he was interviewed after, his demeanour, his grace, is very humble about victory as well. He was. It was great to see him. Delighted for Andy. William as well. William O'Connor, who was a former Finn Harps coach as well. He was with Shells last season, and our old friend James Claffey is involved in UCD as well. He was with Cove, and he's gone into UCD. So it's great. It's a team effort, and I'm just, as a former player, I'm absolutely thrilled. But I am worried. Obviously, I'm worried for them in terms of their safety next year. But I don't think they're there on merit, and they deserve to be there.
Yeah. And I mean, from my point of view, they're only up the road, so it's great that I'll get to see more games up there as well. You touched on Waterford. I mean, you I think have been quite complimentary of Richard Forrest from when he took over at Waterford, and bringing Mark Bircham in, and getting the crowds up, turning things around almost. And yet that situation in the lead up to the playoff game against UCD sounds like something Monty Python might have written, just unbelievable.
It's like the ego show, isn't it? It's who has the bigger ego. It's actually embarrassing. I was hoping you weren't going to ask me about this, being totally honest with you, because I'm just so enraged by the whole situation. I'm not even a Waterford fan. But as again, like we talked about, I'm a League of Ireland supporter. Waterford had such history in this league. Very disappointing that they were relegated. The manner in which they were relegated, as I said, I put up a tweet about their season last year. Like, it's absolutely unbelievable what has gone on at Waterford over the last number of years. Even bringing Ian Hendon in. I know I mentioned Fran Rocket, who was a coach down in Cove, but Cove's season's finished. I thought maybe there's somebody local that knows the club, that loves the club, that has that passion, that wants to keep them in the league. Like, I know Ian's probably a very professional person himself and experienced and all that, but doesn't know Waterford, doesn't know the club, doesn't know the people around the club,
the opposition,
the players. Yeah, you need to know this. Like, you can't just be coming in with 3 days to go before a season and expect. Like, as I said, the manner in which his team was set up as well. It was, like Brian Murphy, for instance. I'd say he's so frustrated with everything that's going on. Like, he'd nearly hang up his gloves, boots, the whole lot. And And as I said, the ego show, like it's the stories that are coming out about Richard Forrest going on about Mark Bircham not playing his son. Like, you're absolutely serious. It's, as you say, it's like a soap opera. And I don't think Mark has covered himself in glory either, if I'm being totally honest. Like, coming over to the game, going in, sitting in with the Waterford FC fans. What do you expect? What do you expect? Like, it's like, if you're going to be there, like, fair enough, go sit up somewhere else. And I wouldn't have. I can't believe he actually went there anyway.
But where can he can't sit in the Royal Box because Richard Forrest and the other bosses are going to be there. He's not going to sit down in the UCD end. So
sit at home and watch it on LOI TV, Con. He was. I know, I'm getting.
No, but I'm interested to. You reckon this was just him giving it two fingers to the owner?
Ego show. Who has the bigger ego? This is what this is all about. I've no doubt about it. And like, it's always kind of, Mark has deflected the situation a lot, and I do feel sorry for him. There's no doubt about it. I do really, really feel sorry for the situation that he was in. Imagine being told by the owner that your son has to be played. If that's true, there's talk of COVID cases as well. There was a positive case in the camp last week and thrown under the carpet. I don't know how true that is.
That'll be very serious. So, I mean, you would like to think that that's not the case.
You'd like to think that's not true, but that's the stories that are coming out, that are emerging. So, what can you take from it? What do you believe? And I'm sure the Waterford fans are, as I said, is it true? Can it be that ridiculous that the owner is going mad at the manager that he's not playing his son? Is that really what it is all about? Please, surely not. Surely not.
The Waterford fans deserve some sort of clarity on that, actually, because they've been great this season. They've, supported the team through thick and thin, and they came up to the game in big numbers the other night as well. So it's a very unfortunate situation for them.
I can only, I'm speaking here, obviously, and getting very frustrated. I can only imagine if I was a fan of the club, how frustrated I'd be, and it's terrible. And like, as I said, you're hearing stories from different people involved down there. And as I said, you don't know what to believe, because it's just, as you say, there's such a lack of clarity going on. And the statements this week have been terrible as well. And the fans deserve better.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have to try and rebuild from the first division next season. As I say, that lack of a team from Munster. I mean, when you think no Cork City, no team from Limerick, be it Treaty, Limerick FC, no team from Waterford, it's a pity, real pity, I think. Yeah,
no team from the Midlands either.
Yeah. I mean, that map that they put up with the, Donegal and Sligo, Finn Harp, Sligo, and Dundalk, Drogheda, and then a bunch in Dublin. It's not great.
Yeah, no.
Will we look at the team of the year? What about that PFAI? Well, maybe we should just give our teams of the year, will we? And we could here's the PFAI team of the year. And actually, I wanted to ask you something about this. So the PFAI Premier Division team of the year, you've all heard this earlier anyway, a week ago or so. Talbot in goal, James Brown, Lopez, Boyce and Scales, your back four. Midfield, Forrest, Devoy, Patching and Burt, and Gaffney and Kelly up front. So that's your 11. So that's voted for by the players who aren't allowed to vote for players in their own team, right?
Yeah.
And so my question, I suppose, is as a player, you actually only get to see the other players in the team, in the other teams, maybe 3 or 4 times a season. So you're kind of voting in the dark a bit, and you're relying on press reports or a few clips you might see on Twitter or whatever. So it's not very scientific. And I mean, do you talk about it amongst each other? I think I may have had this conversation with you before, actually. You do, yeah?
Oh, yeah, you do, yeah. Because there's players in this league that don't watch games and they're like, they have to fill it out. They don't know how to put it in.
Yeah.
Copy and paste. You might think that's pretty harsh, but that's that's what happens. I'm not saying that it's happens at every club or happens at every player. It doesn't. But some players do that. And it's a dressing room. They do it all together in the dressing room. And they have a little chat about it and who goes here, who goes there. It's great debates about it over the years, Con. Really is. Really, you go, what are you putting him in for? He's being brutal. Or, he's a star. Like, he has to be in it. Like, you know, so there's some great debates over the years. But then there's some players who just couldn't give a damn about it either. Who, as I said, just copy other people's. So, at the same time, it is voted for by the players, and I think that has to be respected. I think I can see why people are a bit kind of. Some people are a bit miffed at some of the selections. But having said that, it's probably the most. It's the one team as a player you probably want to be in because they're picked by your peers.
Yeah.
So as players, that's the one that you look for more so than anybody else.
Well, listen, let's get the Conan Byrne and Con Murphy team of the year. Your goalkeeper would be
Ed McGinty.
Okay. I'm going for Yaros.
Okay, well,
player
Yaros
of the year
done...
at St. Pat's, and just thought he made a really good impact when he came into the league. But McGinty would be very close.
I think we have to say here that we haven't talked about this beforehand. I don't know yours.
No,
and you don't
I don't know yours. Yeah.
We said we'd do it. Yeah.
Right back,
Ronan Boyce.
I'm the same. He's. I mean, apart from the goals that he scored, his overall performance and the impact again at such a young age. For me, that was a no-brainer. I know he made it into the PFAI team, but they put him at centre half, which was kind of squeezed.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There was a couple of right backs, and
and that's again, no disrespect to James Brown, who was in the PFAI team, who has been fantastic for Drogheda.
Very Connor.
But Boyce for me was the standout right back for sure. Two centre halves.
I have Pico Lopez at Shamrock Rovers and John Mahon at Sligo. But
I should have written this down. I have the same too. Yeah.
I have a special mention though to Owen Toll at Derry City.
Yeah.
So they'd be my two centre halves, so, Pico and Mahon.
Yeah. And then left back again. I debated this in my own head. I mean, I'd go for Scales only because, and he made it into the PFAI team again. And no, he didn't finish the season off, but he was just so sensational for the 2/3 of the season that he did play. I thought it was hard to leave him out. How about you?
Yeah, I've Scales too. I actually probably would have picked Robbie McCourt as well at Sligo. And it kind of sounds like I'm going loads of Sligo here, but I think that defensively they've been absolutely superb. And Robbie McCourt missed 3 months of the season with a wrist injury, and when he was gone, they really, really struggled in that area. So that's why I was kind of debating about Scales or Robbie McCourt, but I went for Scales.
Okay, so we actually agree on the back four, which is actually a bit embarrassing.
Oh well,
at least we didn't agree on the goalkeeper. Now, are you doing 3-3 or 4-2 or?
I actually did the PFAI one of 4-4-2. Just because that's the way they did it. So I said, so I do it the same way.
So who are your four in the middle then?
Okay, well, are we doing one at a time, Con? Or are we doing one?
Okay, yeah, let's do one. It's more exciting this way. Right hand side.
I went for Matty Smith. I know he kind of plays up front a little bit regularly at Pats kind of as a winger, but I put him in the right side of midfield. Just his goals and his energy. He's been. I thought he should have got Player of the Year at Pats, if I'm being totally honest. I thought he has been absolutely superb. Didn't have a great cup day today in the cup final, but his goals helped him there. And he's my right side of midfielder.
Okay. My right side of midfielder is going to be, I know he could play in the centre and you might actually have him in your team, but I'm going for Chris Forrester, right side of midfield.
Okay.
Two central mid.
Greg Bulger and Danny Mandroy. That's who I have as my two in the middle. Again, Greg's, when he doesn't play, the stats prove that Sligo struggle without him. And when he does play,
Yeah, I mean, you've said that so often on this, and I mean the stats, it just bears out what you say. I mean, they're a different team when he doesn't play.
Yeah, and then Mandroyo again, 15 goals from midfield, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'd Bulger and Mandroyo would be my two in the middle.
Right, I'm sticking actually with the PFAI team in that I'm going with Devoy and Patching as my two centres. Although how Dylan Watts doesn't get into this team, I don't know, because he's been sensational for Shamrock Rovers this season. But I'm going with Devoy and Patching just every time I've seen them, you know, and Patching going back to Derry. They are going to be very good next season. They really are.
They're going to be excellent. And that's Dylan Watts was the one with Greg Bulger that I was debating about. But I think without Greg at Sligo, I don't think they would have finished. I don't think they would have got Europe. I still think that Shamrock Rovers would have won the league without Dylan Watts, and that was the reason why I went with Greg. Call it fair? I don't know. But Dylan Watts, as you said, he's been absolutely terrific. But that's why I picked Greg over Dylan. Mandroyo is obviously the goals. The left, I actually did what you did in the right. I put Forrester in the left.
Okay, and I put Mandroyo in on the left. So yeah.
Okay. So 2 out of 4 there
on the right foot. 2 out of 4. So we're not. We've 3 different now compared to each other. So we can tell we're not cogging each other's Ecker.
And say we have the same. Say we have the same story.
Yeah. Go on.
Sorry.
Who's your 2 up top?
I have Georgie Kelly.
Yeah.
And Johnny Kenny.
Okay. Well, we have one different then, because I've gone for Kelly, obviously. And I've gone for Rory Gaffney, who again, for me, has been kind of a bit of an unsung hero in a way. This season. And hasn't had the strike rate of Georgie Kelly, but if I could choose, I'd put Johnny Kenny in my young team of the year. He'll probably be in the team of the year next season.
I know, it's just the emergence of Conan. The goals that he's got for them. He's been their main man. Without him, again, they would have really struggled. And he got COVID during the summer. Really, really struggled towards the latter part of the season, with his fitness, and he was still really, really good
and banging in goals
throughout the season. I think, which is important too. Look, we've missed out. Look, no one's going to be happy with any team that they picked. I've left out Ross Tierney. I've left out Dawson Devoy. I'm just thinking of the Liam Burt. I actually would have put Ali Coote ahead of Burt, if I'm being totally honest. If I was to pick a Bowes winger. But we've missed out on so many. Like even the likes of James Talbot in goal.
Lee Grace had another very good season.
Lee Grace has had a great season, yeah. So we're missing out on some very, very good players. But look, I suppose, and the reason why I didn't put Patching in, he hasn't been as good since at Dundalk than he has been at Derry. At Derry, he was absolutely frightening. But obviously, if he plays like that next year, it'll be very interesting.
I think it will be. Manager of the year, then. Who would you give your manager of the year to?
Stephen Bradley. No question about it.
We're in agreement on that one then. It's hard to look past, they were so convincing, so dominant, back-to-back league titles as well. I know. And people will say, but he's loads of money, and there are other clubs who have big budgets as well.
There is, but it's not even that. It's just the fact that the players that they've lost, and still to come out so dominant in the end of it. Like even throughout the season, like they're losing Liam Scales during the season as well. I know it's kind of towards the latter part of it, but like a case could be made for a lot of the managers in the Premier Division. You could say Stephen O'Donnell as well. Pat's winning a cup and finishing second. It's a fantastic achievement. He'd be my number 2. Liam Buckley at Sligo. A lot of people say, no, Sligo should be getting Europe every year. No, they shouldn't. Not for the squad that if they lose a certain amount of players, 1 or 2 players out of that starting 11, they are bang average. So they need to. I think Liam Buckley has done really well. Obviously, Mark Bircham when he came in at Waterford was really good. Tim Clancy keeping Drogheda well away from the relegation zone for a large portion of the season. I wouldn't put Keith Long maybe as manager of the year, considering where they eventually came. But their European campaign and getting to an FAI Cup final, you could see why he might be shortlisted.
Yeah. Ollie Horgan
as well. Yeah. Look, like, again, it's just you could pick the bones out of everybody in that division. Yeah. But I think Stephen Bradley stands out.
Yeah. In the first division, will we go player of the year in the first division and manager of the year in the first division?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I have to confess, I haven't seen as many first division games this season as I would have done in previous years. COVID would be kind of half responsible for that, but also work commitments and stuff like that. So I'm a bit like some of the players voting in the PFAI team of the year, and that I'm kind of slightly not as au fait with everybody as I should be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a couple now that I would put up. I'll give you my number one at the end. Jack Moylan at Wexford, even though they finished bottom, I think he's been absolutely sensational for them. Then there's Colin Whelan and Liam Kerrigan, Paul Doyle, all at UCD. I thought they've been fantastic. I put up a stat about Luke Byrne when he plays and when he doesn't play at Shell, similar to Greg Bulger. Ryan Brennan, the goals that he has scored, he was kind of out of favour at the very start of the season under Ian Morris. And
any word on where he'll be next season, by the way? I know I'm digressing, but
not yet. No, just rumours, but nothing concrete. But I think I've named a few players there now. Brandon Kavanagh's hit and miss at Bray, and Galway, Rory Keating has scored a couple of goals. I'd have to give it to Ryan Brennan. If I think he's been he's not a centre forward, and the goals that he has, pivotal goals in 1-0 wins, 2-1 wins for Shells. He hasn't been the type of our first goals. He hasn't been the type that scores like the fourth goal in a 5-0 win. Do you know, he scored pivotal goals, pivotal times, pivotal games, and I have to give it to Ryan Brennan. Okay. Who would you?
I'm going with Colin Whelan just for his goals, his strike rate, and again emerging in the international setup. And I think he looked really good in a green and white hoop jersey at some point. I'm sure Celtic will be in for us.
Spartan, isn't
it? He's done really well, and even in the international games that I saw him play, I thought, God, he's a player. He looks good. And for manager of the year, I'll let you go first again because you. Well, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but who are you going for?
I'm going for Ian Morris.
Are you?
I am, absolutely. Similar reason why I'd nearly go for Stephen Bradley. And I'd say Ian Morris had a more difficult job, considering the fact that they were relegated. Again, I know people might say about budgets and all that. And yes, as I said, they should have walked the league, but the fact that they did walk the league, I definitely think that Ian Morris deserves manager of the year.
Yeah, and it's kind of a strange scenario that he gets the manager of the year vote, and yet, Damien Duff comes in and it'll be interesting to see where Ian goes, and we wish him. The one I was thinking of giving the manager of the year to, and actually you make a very strong argument for Ian Morris, and I can't really argue with that with your vote. The only thing I would say is Andy Myler. You mentioned earlier on that to suffer a bereavement like he did and to lead his team to success in that playoff game, which is always such a hotly contested encounter. I thought that was really, really good. And the other thing that you mentioned, and it struck me actually watching it as well, was how sort of dignified he was in the interview afterwards and stuff. Maybe honourable mention to Andy Myler, but I think Ian Morris, now that you say it, probably does get manager of the year in the first division.
Yeah, I think there's a few honourable mentions. I think Ian Ryan's job at Wexford.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Has been phenomenal as well, considering where they were, how much they were getting beaten by every week, and then coming in to nearly, I think they were finishing fourth or something, if the league was going the way it was. which is incredible. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens there next year too.
Yeah. Any word again? I'm asking you all these questions about players' movements and stuff. But Jack Moylan, I know we spoke to Ian on the podcast previously about whether he'd be able to hang on to him for next season. What a big player that would be if they could.
God,
you can't tell me. Okay. You can't tell me. Sorry, I shouldn't actually be asking. It's not fair of me to be asking you those questions.
Yeah, well, look, what way can I say this? I don't know. I think this kind of proves where he, I don't know.
Yeah. I'll read between the lines. I'll read your.
Okay, right. Ian will have a very, very, very difficult job to keep him.
Yeah.
That's the best way of putting it.
Yeah. We spoke about Ian Morris and Shelburne there before. We go finish off with the divisions and the leagues. The Women's National League, I mean, it was a kind of a Roy the Rovers finish, or what would be the female version of Roy. But the way Shelburne won the Women's National League in the end, I know we spoke about it last week, but it rounded off a great few weeks for the club.
Yeah. It was just kind of disappointment of the Women's FAI Cup against Wexford that they didn't get the clean sweep. But yeah, it's great to see Shells back at the forefront of women's soccer and women's football, should I say? And just PML they're going to come back next year. They didn't win a thing this year, probably, and it's going to be hurting them, and they will need to regroup and go again, because they have the players to do that. Anya Gorman again, doing really, really well this season. Doing well for Ireland as well. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next year.
Obviously Wexford Youth will be looking to build on their cup success as well. So
the LR Waves have started their signings for next season, and they've re-signed their key players too. So which is great to see by Graham Kelly doing his business there.
It's interesting, actually, and the way they're releasing it every day or every other day as well, it keeps the flow of information going. It's really good. I mean, just on the women's front, the double header this week and next week for the national team. I mean, 6,000 tickets sold, albeit I think only 5,000 turned up on a wickedly cold night for that match the other night against Slovakia. But the fact that they sold 6,000 tickets, it's going in the right direction. It really is.
It is, yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like I did a match that night. Belgium were playing. It was the one I was tweeting about. An extraordinary game. Belgium beat Armenia 19-0 in a World Cup qualifier in Group F, in Leuven, which is about 25 miles outside Brussels. But there was maybe 5,000 at that match. At a push. So the fact that we're getting 6,000 for Ireland against Slovakia. It's fantastic on a night where you wouldn't put your cat out,
Yes.
It's the one disadvantage of playing these World Cup qualifiers in November in some countries where it's just worse than here. But I thought that was brilliant. So hopefully that will continue as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there anything else you can think of that we've missed?
No, I think that's it. I think thank you for a wonderful season, Con.
Likewise.
Great to be
thoroughly
working with
enjoyed
you.
it. No, it's been and I just want to say, actually, by the way, thanks to everybody at Pundit Arena who've been behind us throughout the season, Marissa, Michael and Matt and everybody at Pundit Arena who've been fantastic supporters of the LOI Arena podcast, and we do really, really appreciate everything they've done for us as well. And hopefully we'll be back for next season, Conan.
Yes, absolutely.
Haven't signed the contract yet. If CNN or the BBC come looking for us, we may have to consider our options. But it would be great to be
Derry
back
City.
Again. Or Derry City. Loads of money, yeah. But listen, it's been great. Really enjoyed it this season. And thanks a million to everybody who's listened and who's tweeted us. And occasionally we've been tweeted with some comments that have been either correcting mistakes that we've made, which we always appreciate, or arguing with points that we've made, which again we appreciate.
I have to say something, by the way. I was meant to do this at the start. I made a mistake last week. I said Michael Duffy it was a disgrace that he wasn't brought on. I was reliably informed that he did not want to come on from himself. He told Dundalk he didn't want to come on.
Oh, okay.
So I'm putting my hand up now, and I'm apologising for.
Well, you weren't
criticizing,
but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
and
I'm glad you kind of said that to make me trigger in my head, because I think it's important though that you kind of. I think we're good at that. I think we're able to say.
Well, we make plenty of mistakes, so we hold our hands up and say,
like we're not perfect.
But the point I was going to make is that even if people are giving out to us for making a mistake, or just correcting a mistake we've made, or arguing a point, arguing the toss over a player, a manager, a comment that either of us might have made, the engagement is great, and we do really appreciate it when people get in touch with us. So thanks to everybody throughout the season who has, and hopefully we'll have much more of that next season as well. But that's pretty much it for 2021 campaign. It's been a great year. I've enjoyed it, really enjoyed it, and as ever, Conan, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you. So let's do it again soon.
You too, Con. Take care.